Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So today what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the proration. If you remember in the last episode, I talked about the prorate, right? So how the prorate was calculated when you have a subscription for, say, 12 months, and we decide to buy a product, for 28 months, right? So today what I'm going to do, it's more a theory session. So I decided to, cover this from a trailhead. There's no point in duplicating to a slide, right? So I might as well excuse me, talk to you guys through the trailhead, right? Uh, so it's pretty simple, right? Proration, right? Proration. So in the last episode, if you remember, I created a product called. I just go back. Um, uh, some VPN license, and I set the product price to $10, right? So if you try to add to a code, and say, for instance, if I go back to the code again, right, and which one? This one is it, I guess. Uh, does it expire? Just a second. Let me show you what I'm trying to do. Okay, no, I'm just gonna make this one. So, so if I say put it as 24 for 2 terms, right? That's for 2 years. It will calculate behind the scene, right? When you try to add a product for $10 for 12 months, it will say, hey, the price of the product for 2 years is $20, right? Now you must be wondering how that's happening behind the scene. There is something called the prorate multiplier. So in this case, the prorate value will be 2 because you put the term in your code as 24, and so the actual term for the product will be defined. If you remember, by going to the product, that's um, so that's so usually if you don't mention it, excuse me, it's usually 12 months. So what happens is if I try to add a product here, excuse me, so it will tell you that okay, so the pro rate is 2, so and I'm going to work out the total price for this code, right, based on the 24 months contract. So what we'll do, it will first of all, it will try to calculate the prorate multiplier, and the way it works is that it will pick up the code subscription terms and the total term the product is for. Sorry, the code subscription term, which is the 24, and then the product term. So 24 divided by 12, that is 2, and then when the code product get added to the code, so it'll pick up the price from price book. So in this case, because we are talking about the fixed price, right? So it will pick up 10 and multiply by 2. Okay, that's cool, right? But what happens, right, if you have start date and end date, and you have months, right? And sometimes you don't want it to just say, for instance, if my code starts from 1st of August, right, of 2022, and it ends and the end date for that code is, say, 5th of August 2023. So obviously, you can say, if you're rounding up, okay, it's a 12 months, but what if the customer is not happy with that? They wanted to calculate the number of days, right, along with the month. So we have an option called month and day. So that means, probably 12 months and 4 days. So you need to still work out the 4 days price, right? So how do we do that? So for that, you need to have an option set up in place. Okay, so this is an option you need to set up under configuration, which is very important. So as usual, so you go to get call icon, go to setup, right? Uh, I'll show you a few options there, and we will walk through how the price get calculated behind the scene. This is very important in terms of understanding how the price works, because when it comes to subscription, because if you don't understand it, you might end up in suggesting something, and the customer might have different price outcome, and which they may not be very happy with it, right? Okay, so you go to the install here and go to install package. And uninstall package, you go to staking stone time, configure. Um, okay, so go to subscription here, right? Now, pay attention to the subscription plus prorate position, right? Right now it's set to month. So, uh, because in our case, why it was calculated monthly, because we haven't specified, if you look at it, any uh, start date and end date, so it doesn't matter. So it's just working on the plane from subscription. So, uh, but if you have start date, end date, how it's going to work. So the month, right? So let's have the month. This will be the basic. This will be the simplest option, where the customer don't care about the number of days. Like I said, you have a start date of 1st August, and of 2022, and the end date of 4th of August 2023, right? So obviously it's 12 months, but if you're not considering days, who cares, right? It's just a flat 12 months. So um, that's great. So that's and you're obviously your the prorate, right, multiplier, that plays an important role. So all of this, right, all of the settings that contributes to the calculation of the prorate multiplier, the one I spoke about just a minute ago, right? You have 24 month subscription. Code is for 24 months, and the product is 12 months, right? So your prorate multiplier will be 24 divided by 12. So that's how it normally works. So that's exactly what they're talking about. So round up, that's the months, right? And the default subscription terms. So this is your the default subscription terms. I'll just go up. So it's like in the code line. So this is your default subscription term, right? So let me go back to your cancel. All right, sorry. Anyways, never mind. So as you can see here, so they talk about the default subscription term here. So that's great. So that's one way that's the calculation works, and it's pretty simple. Now, if you change to month and daily, right? So in this case, obviously we're not dealing with months. So this might be a bit of confusing when you're dealing for the first time, but that's why I often use this. I often keep a chart, right, where it's easy for you to, if you are a CPQ consultant, right, having this chart handy, you can stick it in your, board wherever you wanted to do, right. This is always handy because, if a customer asks you, hey, I wanted to do based on days or days within the calendar, I want to exclude the leap year, not leap year, right. So it's good to have this. Okay, so if you have monthly and daily, right, so that's the setting here. You change it to here. So you change it and save it, and then you work with your codes and the products, right? So the way it works is that your total number of months, which is right, obviously from between August 1st and 2022. Let's take an example of this one, right? It's pretty simple. So they're talking about, the start date is the 10th of uh, 2022 January, and the end date is April 15. So obviously it contains 15 days, but along with that, it does contain 6 days extra. Okay, so if you are talking only purely in terms of month, yes, it's a 15 month. But if you're not talking purely only in terms of months, but months plus days, so you got extra 5 days, right? So how do you work out those extra 5 days? That's where the monthly and daily comes in the picture. So you do months, okay, then the remaining days, which is 6. Now divided by the 365 by 12, and your um, the subscription term default, right? That's 12. Obviously, what happens is it will calculate your prorate, and then you multiply the prorate with the price, so that will give you the result. That's pretty much it. And the same with the calendar with monthly. So we do partial days in the start month. In this case, it's you got 22, and plus, divided by days in the start month. That is how many days, total days. So partial days means, whatever the remaining days, right, from the Jan 10. So it's obviously, you can say it's 22 days, right? So 22 divided by number of days in a month, that is the 31. Um, then the whole month, the total number of months, right? The calculating, plus the partial days in the end month. So the last month, April 15 to, the 30th of April, that's obviously 15 days. Then divided by days in a month, and then total. I know this can be confusing, but the CPQ does this behind the scene. This is just to let you know how the calculation works, right? It's just important to understand, because if someone asks you, can you explain to me how the prorate multiplier is calculated when I have calendar, monthly plus daily option set up, and if you say I am not sure, then that won't be a good look, right? So it's just better to understand, or you can show this to your customer. Hey, this is how it works, right? The day is pretty simple, right? The number of days between the start and end days, and the 366. So 366 is considering the leap year, so that's how it works, right? Sometimes you have 29 days in the month in February, considering the leap year or not. So you have to factor that. So, and if you're not interested, right? If you're just saying, hey, I don't, give a dang about the leap year. So there is an option how to turn that off. So just go here. See, just notice the screen, right? Just pay attention to the screen for a second. If you change this to days, okay, your option changes. So you can obviously say ignore leap year, then it works the way it's supposed to work. So you can read it. Selecting this field will ignore the extra days from the leap year in the prorate calculation, right? So if you think that, okay, leap year might be an issue, so just take this option, right? It will take care of it. The same goes for, I think, I'm not sure if this is okay. Yeah, the days with calendar month. So ignore the leap year, right? So that's okay. So in that case, the days with calendar month, it's just, the calculation is the year, this for 1 year plus remaining days. How many days? Divided by x. X is 366 remaining days. So it's based on the leap year, right? So that's pretty much it. So um, so 96 days remaining years, right? 12 plus 3, that's 15 months. So total number of days, that's obviously the 96 days, because you obviously calculate from June 10th to probably June 10th of next year, and then from there to April 15th. So that's 96 days. That's what the 96 days is here, if you are wondering what it is, right? So, and then to talk about the days method, it's usually unusual, right? uh, so they say that if your all subscription term unit is day, you must choose the day method for all methods that are long. Usually, I don't know about you guys if you work with CPQ. I haven't seen the days method getting used much. It's usually customer prefers month, but that depends upon the model of business you're dealing with, I suppose, right? But normally, the place where I've kind of done CPQ implementation in the past, they were providing products based on the monthly. So the days were not usually considered. Uh, so yeah, I mean, I haven't seen much getting used, but whatever, right? So yeah, so this is the option as I mentioned. So this is just a theory I wanted to walk you through, guys, for to help you guys understand, why the prorate calculation is important, because the prorate multiplication factor is what determines the outcome in terms of the price, right? The code price. Otherwise, you might be confused, right? Why this guy's calculating this way? Why I'm getting a strange CPQ, price result? That's because of the prorate multiplier. So one troubleshooting step I will suggest you, if you've configured, right, your prorate, and if you're getting, say for instance, if your customer is saying, hey, the price is not working for whatever reason, for after the last update, so just have a look at the settings, right, to see what you've configured here, and subscription term unit, and look at the product, look at the code. That's one of the easy way to troubleshoot, right? So that's pretty much I wanted to cover. I mean, this is not a hands-on session. I appreciate the fact that it's too much to grasp in terms of the functionality, but I would say that it's very important concept to learn from an exam point of view as well as from your implementation point of view. So that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing Sunday. Adios.